I'm Justin Boyd.
I am Tristan Jones, a.k.a. surprised the NFL did not shut down for Kendrick Lamar weekend.
And we are the Watchers in the Basement. Welcome to the Watchers in the Basement, and welcome to Watchers Football Weekly, a podcast within a podcast. And a podcast it's all about the pigskin. Today we are here to discuss Week 12, the NFL season. And obviously it's Thanksgiving this week. It's a holiday week, so we're coming to you a day early. So we will not be able to talk about all the games. We won't be able to discuss the Harbaugh Bowl, which is tonight between the Ravens and the Chargers. It might be a good game. If it's worthy of that, we'll talk about it on our next episode when we talk about Week 13. But there's plenty to discuss, Tristan, from Week 12. Let's get right to it. Last night, Sunday Night Football, Saquon Barkley made a strong case for a running back possibly winning the MVP award again. He rushed for 255 yards. He had over 300 yards total as the Eagles, who won 7 straight, just absolutely ran over the Los Angeles Rams. What are your thoughts on that game and on Barkley?
That game demonstrated there's a clear separation between Philadelphia and, of course, Detroit and the rest of the NFC.
Yeah.
I thought the Rams were a team that was kind of nipping on the heels of Philly, that they can kind of hop in that same tier. But with the Rams, a lot of things have to go right. I think offensively they're going to be okay, but defensively they don't have enough playmakers to really stop. They're a really small team, especially on defense. So like a lot of things had to go right for them to even like really compete with Philly. And if Philly got the ground game working, then that was pretty much going to be it. You know, Jalen Hurts, we talked about it. Jalen Hurts is like a 3-pitch pitcher. You know, you got a 4-seam, 2-seam, and a curve, and that's it. But whenever the run game is working for Philly, it makes his, limited, pitch arsenal that much potent.
Yeah.
Eventually, those corners are going to get one-on-ones against, those receivers, even without Devontae Smith. He's going to work the tight ends, going to work on the outside edges, run the ball. They just look like a team that said, hey, we may only do probably 3 things well, but we're going to run you over and pound you to death with those 3 things that we do well. For me, like it shows that Philly is right there with Detroit, man. I think they could beat Detroit. And if you would have asked me 2-3 weeks ago, I'd have said no team is coming close to beating Detroit. And I think we have like a real live, legitimate NFC championship game, like collision course with those 2 teams. And so that's what last night showed me is that, hey, Philly, while I think they're still limited, and while I think a really, really great defense can discombobulate things for Jalen Hurts and like make him kind of look at different parts of the field in the passing game, keep him within the pocket and make him scan the field, which is not his strong suit. I also think there's just not that many teams in the NFL, period, AFC or NFC, that can do that.
Yeah. No, I agree with you about Philadelphia. It started 2-2. They've won 7 in a row, and yeah, it's not going to be a cakewalk for Detroit to just go to the Super Bowl and take on the Chiefs or whoever the Bills, whoever's going to be there. This is going to be a legitimate race for that top seed. And the Eagles now have a 3-game lead over the Commanders. We'll talk about that game shortly, but just kind of putting a bow on the NFC West, because it wasn't a great day for that division. The Rams lost. They're now at the bottom of the conference, the division with the 49ers, who are both 5-6. The Niners were obliterated by the Packers. Packers ran all over them. There wasn't really much from that game. No Brock Purdy, no Nick Bosa, no Trent Williams, really no chance. The other NFC West game was the Seahawks finding a way to beat the Cardinals. They're both 6-5. The Seahawks have the edge in the standings. Any thoughts about the West?
Well, the Seahawks and Cardinals, that was a better game than I think the score indicated. I thought both defenses played well. Quarterbacks didn't really Kyler Murray made one of the worst throws I've ever seen in my life. But outside of that, I thought he played a somewhat clean game. They just couldn't get enough breaks. Like they started too many possessions with, 1st and 15 after a holding penalty on, 1st and 20. Penalties on 1st and 2nd down. They just really couldn't get enough offense going. they couldn't get out of their own way essentially, and that's been like a big criticism of mine with like Kyler Murray offenses. Like I can't really tell if they're good and they just are flawed or they're just not good at all with like some flashes of good. I don't know,
Right.
but this is what they are. Like they're 6-5, type of team. I think it will be that the rest of this year and probably the majority of Kyler Murray's career in Arizona. For Seattle, if they get enough run game, I think they can be a team that like really takes control of this division. I see Seattle as a team that only wins maybe one playoff game, at best. But like Geno, if everything's working right, Geno is an elite thrower of the ball. And when the run game is working right, when the defense isn't putting him in bad positions, starting at the 20 or below, like he can really be an elite thrower. I think he's leading the league in passing yards. He's been a great, outside of a few games this year. That's the NFC West in a nutshell, man. It's one really, really elite quarterback in Matthew Stafford who doesn't have enough around him on both sides of the ball consistently. The most talented quarterback in the division is Kyler Murray by a long shot.
Yeah,
not consistent enough, or at least his offense isn't consistent enough. The defense damn sure isn't consistent enough, though it's been better. Brock Purdy is probably the sharpest one. If the least talented. And again, he needs a lot of things to go well. He needs all of those guys to be healthy. He needs the defense to be playing at a high level. The defense is not playing at a high level.
No.
You have the Seahawks, which is kind of like in the middle of all that. Like Geno Smith is kind of in the middle as far as talent. Mm-hmm. The Seahawks are probably in the middle as far as offense goes. Defense, same thing. Like this is a bunch of 500 teams that we're looking at in this division.
Yeah.
So right now, Seattle, they have the upper hand because they have a quarterback, I think, just playing the best relative to everything that's around him and Stafford. So those are my two teams that I think can really – those are the two teams I think can win a playoff game. I don't think San Francisco can win a playoff game this year. I don't think Arizona can win a playoff game this year. It's just a matter of who can get consistent at the right time.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think this division, it's not going to be determined until the final week of the season.
I think the last game of the season is, I think, Seahawks and Cardinals again, or Seahawks or Cardinals 49ers.
I think it's Cardinals 49ers. Seahawks play the Rams, I believe. Yeah. So we'll see how that works out. Back to the NFC East. So it looks like Philly got a pretty commanding lead. They're 3 games up on the Commanders after that insane game yesterday between the Cowboys and Commanders in Washington. Let me just run you through some of this stuff. So Dallas got the win, 34-26. The game was tied 3-3 at the half. Dallas led 10-9 after 3 quarters. Then the two teams combined to score 41 points in the fourth quarter. With 5 minutes to go in the game, Dallas led 20-9. Then, Washington got a score, got a 2-point conversion, kicked it off to Dallas. Kevontae Turpin went 99 yards. He did he hit the circle button on Madden, got the spin move, went 99 yards to put Dallas up 27-17 with under 3 to play. Right? You're thinking that's probably over. Nope. Washington comes back, gets a field goal, makes it 27-20. Then they seemingly were going to tie the game when Jaden Daniels found Terry McLaurin for an 86-yard touchdown with 21 seconds to go. However, their kicker missed the extra point. It was his second missed extra point of the day. He also missed the field goal. And so it's 27-26. Dallas is up. Washington's forced the onside kick. They go for the onside kick. Dallas return guy, Wanye Thomas, picks it up, returns it for a touchdown, gives you the final score. Commanders have lost 3 straight. Tristan, makes sense of this crazy game.
I wonder if you were thinking the same thing I thought after he missed the kick at the end, which is like, hey, this is payback for the Hail Mary. Football guards give it.
Right.
Football guards take it away.
Exactly. Yeah.
This was a wild game. I mean, you just said all that, and like, you probably missed like 2 or 3 other crazy things that happened.
Oh yeah.
Like Jaden Daniels. So okay, let's start with quarterbacks. I think Jaden Daniels. This was another game in like a slow decline that he's been making over the course of like the last half, since the last half of the season started.
Yeah.
kind of correlates with that rib injury.
Yeah.
He hasn't been running the ball a lot, though he ran it well yesterday. I think he had like 60-some yards yesterday. He definitely has not been accurate. He's, sub 60% completion percentage, less explosive plays, especially in the run game. With that said, when they needed it on that last drive, he made a brilliant throw to McLaurin, who scored, I think it was like 82 yards or something like that. Like, it looked like he was throwing the ball away from my eyes.
Yeah.
And he just hit him right on the loop, and he, beat the defense. But Cooper Rush, I think outplayed Jayden Daniels. Cooper Rush, I think, played really well. They finally – why does it always take until the backup quarterback comes in for teams to say, let's commit to running the ball? Frank and I talk about this all the time. Like, hey, this may not be a C.J. Stroud game. This may not be a Jayden Daniels game. It may not be a Caleb Williams game. It may not, hell, be a Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes game. This may be a game where, hey, we need to establish a run, and then let the quarterback build off that. So I thought the Cowboys did a really good job of committing to the run, even when it wasn't working in the first half. Just kind of like really maximizing those possessions. So that allowed Cooper Rush to get into a rhythm, just make completions. Not necessarily like if you contrast that with Brandon Allen for the 49ers, in the first half, he was deliberately trying to make big plays. He was trying to make big throws in moments that didn't really require a big throw. Like, hey, just a 4 to 5 yard, 6 yard completion. Keep the sticks moving, until eventually you find yourself in scoring position. So Cooper Rush did a really good job of that. As a result, that the offense picked up in the second half. Everything picked up in the second half. Mm-hmm. But again, kickers, man, football guards, man, like Washington has caught so many breaks that have kind of gone overlooked because of how well Jayden Daniels was playing a lot of the big plays. But like so many of their wins have been off a lot of times the mistakes of other teams, more so than what they're doing. Even though Washington's playing well, but they're not a 700 win percentage type team. They are closer to what they are, which is a Hail Mary away from being 500. So that kind of crystallized. It's been a decline there in that offense since Jayden Daniels got hurt. And then the books, this is kind of a pattern with Cliff Kingsbury. His teams tend to struggle in the second half of seasons. When, Scout is out on him, it's like he runs out of plays. So I would expect that offense to continue to be average at best over the course of this year, which, the Eagles are going to run away with the division. But if I were the Commanders, I would watch out for, I guess, this plucky underdog Dallas Cowboys team that could sneak up and grab a wild card spot if they're not serious.
Yeah, it's crazy to say, but the Cowboys are not out of it at Thanksgiving. They're now 4-7. They snapped their 5-game losing streak. You're right. Cooper Rush played very well. And now for Thanksgiving, that 3:30 afternoon game, we've got the Cowboys taking on the Giants. Excellent chance for the Cowboys to go 5-7. Let's talk about the Giants. They had a wild week. They benched Daniel Jones at the start of the week. Then they released him. And with Tommy DeVito getting the start, they got throttled by the Bucs at home 30-7. Even had Baker Mayfield doing the Tommy DeVito, going at him with that. So, the Giants are obviously a mess.
Completely.
Where do you want to take this? You want to talk about is Daniel Jones going to get signed by somebody this week? Could the 49ers use him if Brock Purdy's hurt? Like what's his market right now? What do you think?
Yeah, let's talk about Daniel Jones. There's nothing to talk about that game. It was a bludgeoning. Do you want to have a smaller conversation about Daniel Jones, or do you want to have a larger conversation about why is it possible for Daniel Jones to continue to exist despite all evidence to the contrary saying that he is not a starting quarterback in the National Football League? Depends on where you want to go with it.
I think we could kind of do a little bit of both, right? I don't think he's obviously not very good, but like there are, is he better than, is Brandon Allen better than Daniel Jones? Like he's been in the system. No offense to Brandon Allen. Like I don't think he has the physical ability that Daniel Jones maybe has.
I think another Allen is the one that we need to talk about, and that's Josh.
Yeah.
And I think Josh's success I say delayed success as an accurate NFL quarterback is kind of like the impetus for why Daniel Jones will continue to get a shot until, maybe it's his third or fourth opportunity. It was like, okay, it's just not it if he hasn't developed by then. But Daniel Jones struggles with accuracy. He struggles with overall decision making, right? And those two things together, we haven't really seen many quarterbacks develop that into their third, fourth, fifth year. This is year 5 for Daniel Jones, I want to say. The best case that we have is Josh Allen, who notoriously was inaccurate coming out of Wyoming, who up until maybe his second and third, up until maybe the beginning of last year, like severely struggled with like decision making at the wrong time. Throwing passes to people to fullbacks on the sideline, on go routes, like in bad situations, putting the ball in harm's way too much. And then he has, in the right system under Brian Daboll, which again, the reason Brian Daboll has that job is because of his work with Josh Allen. So I guess I understand the thinking. They have similar builds, similar profiles that, hey, in the right system with the right guy, let him sit and watch, for a year or two, develop. And, maybe at best he's somebody who can step. If you're the 49ers and you want some leverage against, paying Brock Purdy $50 to $55 million plus, then, hey, maybe Daniel Jones is a good piece of leverage for you to have. Like, hey, we can develop him and at the very worst, get 80% of the production out of Brock Purdy, 70 to 80%. Larger point is there's no reason for Daniel Jones to really exist. Like, Daniel Jones was not everything shit that he was a backup coming out of Duke, so he should have been a second, third day pick as it is, and he should not have had like the leeway to suck for this long and essentially like help drag down a complete franchise, almost single-handedly. But again, for quarterbacks like Daniel Jones, who looked the part all-stars, obviously white, tall, broad shoulders, strong arm, much more athletic, way more athletic than he gets credit for. Like I think his peak is as a running quarterback who throws the ball. But he's been pigeonholed into being like this drop back quarterback when he's never really been that. And it's not his strong suit. And again, he profiles as a backup at best with that. But I don't understand. Like, there's been so many better. Like, if Tyrod Taylor got half the leeway that Daniel Jones got, the Giants would probably be a playoff team. At least, a passable team, who, some moves on the margin could be something. But it's the privilege, man. Daniel Jones gets to exist under the privilege of like, hey, we see you suck, like completely suck on national television in front of the nation every week. And there's always going to be somebody, some team, some coach that, is willing essentially to stake part of their reputation on building Daniel Jones up. And this is where we are in the NFL as NFL fans. Like, we have like a set of like really, really, really good quarterbacks and then a mixed bag of like, how are you even here?
Yeah. Well, he was the 6th overall pick in the 2019 draft, and that's why he'll have at least another opportunity, probably 2 more opportunities. But I think you said it well. Like, I think that his value is as a running quarterback because he's a much better athlete than he is like a thrower of the football. That's where he could maybe help somebody. I mean, I wouldn't want, if I'm the 49ers, like, if Brock Purdy's healthy to go next week, like, you're not going to make any kind of moves, like, unless he's like done for the rest of the year or whatever. But I don't know. I feel like Daniel Jones will sign with somebody, somebody will pick him up, maybe Jacksonville, or I don't know, somebody will take a flyer on him, and maybe Dallas, who knows? Like, I mean, Trey Lance is their backup. Maybe they'll give him a chance to play, but if Cooper Rush is playing okay or well, Cooper Rush gives them a chance to win. So,
do you keep Daniel Jones on after the season if you're the Cowboys?
Yeah,
that could be a shit show next year with that coming back, and then you have this former division rival starting quarterback who, again, we all know Daniel Jones is bad, but we all also have 40 to 50 years of like NFL history that says black quarterback, white backup quarterback. There's some social political things that I remember Cody Chandler. You know, like you're like me and you're from Houston and you remember Warren Moon and Cody Chandler. You know how these things can get. So
yeah.
I definitely San Francisco. You said Jacksonville. I think those are good options. Hell, if you're the Jets, you know, why not? You're already fucking Jets. Like, until you are able to get like a top 3 to 5 pick, you know, with a quarterback coming in that you know can step in and be a franchise quarterback, I can understand. I wouldn't do it, but I can understand like giving Daniel Jones a flyer and see, you know, give him a year or so to see what he can do in a different system.
Yeah, you know, the other New York quarterback, he might get released too. You never know. Aaron Rodgers might have played his last game for the Jets. Who knows? We'll see. They were on a bye this week. Thankfully, we didn't have to watch the Jets, so that was one of the things I'm thankful for.
We still have to hear about him though.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. They Drew here in the chat made a good point. The Raiders need a quarterback. They definitely do. Yeah, they're down to Desmond Ridder with the injury to Gardner Minshew, which, you know, they needed a quarterback with Gardner Minshew. And
I think the Raiders are okay. I'm going to give the Raiders at least partial credit in that I think they are committed to find one through the draft. How many years of this? You tried it with Derek Carr.
Yeah.
You tried it with, you know, Garoppolo, Minshew, O'Connell. Yeah. Like, you've been through so many quarterbacks. It's time to like really lock in on finding an actual franchise quarterback and not a second or third round quarterback that we like, that we hope, but like get somebody with some high upside, somebody a team can get behind. Who that is in this draft, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't believe in any of them as far as being a day one first round pick, but
yeah,
I'm a Chiefs fan. Fuck the Raiders. Like, I hope they never find one.
Well, and for your sake, you know, Black Friday, there's a Black Friday game and the Chiefs host the Raiders. So that should be maybe an easy win. This is a good way to transition. Well, maybe not. Okay. Let's talk about the Chiefs, because the Chiefs, that's partially why Frank isn't here. He was actually in the game. He was at the game in Charlotte yesterday, and the Chiefs escaped with a 30-27 win with a last second field goal. They were in control of the game for the whole game, but you know, Bryce Young actually played pretty well, and it was a, you know, pretty compelling game. What did you think about the finish and just how the game went?
I thought the game went pretty much exactly how I thought it was going to go. I did think that I thought coming in, I did not think the Chiefs were going to cover, 10.5. I did not think that was going to happen.
Yeah.
I did not. One, I did think the offense would play better. I think the defense has been on a slight decline over the last 2 weeks. But I didn't expect them to let Carolina, of all people, put up 27 points. I did think the defense would tighten up in the second half, but the offense was great. I thought the offense scored on every possession in the first half, and they scored on all but 2 in the second half. It's just that the 2 were the 2 drives in the fourth quarter that could have put the game away, and they just really couldn't get anything going. Too conservative and sometimes not conservative enough. One of those drives, I'm like, hey, we just could have ran the ball and ran some clock out, and then passed off that, kept the chains moving, run some clock down, kick a field goal. That would have been it. But I didn't think – also another reason I didn't think that the Chiefs would cover against the Panthers was the Panthers have played better. Like, I've actually been watching them since Bryce Young has been back starting. I've been making it a point to like really lock in and watch Bryce Young and kind of evaluate where he is after, you know, getting benched for Andy Dalton. And he's been better. He's looked like, I think at worst, a good quarterback. Like just somebody who can, on a possession basis, make good decisions, keep the ball moving. They've been driving the ball down the field, scoring on a lot of their red zone, not a lot, on at least some of their red zone possessions. And they drove the ball down the field. They picked the ball. They picked up, you know, necessary third downs, even 3rd and 8s, 3rd and 12s. You know, Bryce was able to use his legs when he needed to, but he was also like keeping his eyes down the field. Like it didn't look like he was bailing because of pressure. It wasn't a lot of pressure to begin with, but like even on blitzes, like he stood in the pocket, made the right pass. Like he looked like a good quarterback yesterday, and he's been looking like that since he got the starting position back. So with that being said, I can't look at the Panthers as like the Panthers, before he got benched, like maybe a one-win team. Like they look like a legitimate offense when he's playing well. So I figured it would be closer. Like I said, I did think that the defense would tighten up in the second half, and they didn't. They started off the third quarter with essentially a half the quarter drive. So I don't know. The defense is starting to concern me a little bit. It was at least like the secondary. Teams are picking on our second and third corners, Najee Johnson, Shamari Connor. So it's something that needs to be worked out on. But the offense looked great. I think Pat Mahomes played an A game. Not an A+ game. 27 for 37, 269, I want to say, 3 touchdowns. Could have run in another one on that long 33-yard scamper. Offense, I think, is trending upwards. The defense is kind of stagnant or a little bit down. So I'm looking for them to pick that up. Friday, this Black Friday game would be a great time for both units to play at least a B+, A- game at the same time. And just kind of looking to build that momentum heading towards the playoffs.
Yeah. After the game, Patrick Mahomes was talking about how they mentioned that 8 of the Chiefs' wins have been by 7 points or less, or 6 points or less, whatever the number is. And he was talking about, hey, it'd be nice to have a blowout every once in a while. And so maybe that blowout's coming on Black Friday.
One thing that I'm not seeing enough, I saw, I think Damian Woody talked about it on Get Up this morning, but like we have to remember the essence of sports when we see teams, whether they're good teams, playoff teams, up and coming teams, when the champs are coming into your building, like,
oh yeah, definitely.
You see it in literally every sport with every champ. Like,
yeah, you do.
The level of play rises. This is essentially like every team Super Bowl every year. Every game, every week. Yeah. And the Chiefs are pulling out these games at 90% of them, even if they're one score. Like, I think it's going to make them stronger in the playoffs. But it has to be stressful for them to not, like I said, put all 3 phases of the game and on a good level at the same time in these games. So,
yeah, I mean, like I said, I've said this a couple times. Like they're still winning games. They're kind of like they kind of took the mail from the Patriots after Brady left, and they're that team that just win. They find a way to win, and I think the difference is that Mahomes obviously is still in the prime of his career, and you would think that they would pour it on and kill these teams, and it just hasn't happened. Doesn't mean that. I mean, again, at the end of the year, if they win every game by 1 point, you still win. Like that's all that matters. But you make a good point.
I think they are deliberately saving some stuff for the playoffs. They know they're going to be at worst a 2 seed, at worst.
Right.
Most likely a 1 seed. Getting guys back healthy. Their MO is not the same as like Detroit or Baltimore, who are trying to prove on every possession, hey, we can dominate every possession. Like for the Chiefs, like for the most part, it's been like essentially I liken it to, if you look at like the Warriors teams in like 2015, 2016, 2017, which were more, quick shots up and down the floor, and then you compare it to like 2022. Which was way more, like all these teams were great defensively, but 2022 was like, hey, we can slow the game down and run when we need to. And that's what I'm seeing from the Chiefs. Like when they, against Buffalo, when they absolutely needed a touchdown, when they were down 9 the first time, it was probably their best drive of the season. Like just quick, great throws, quick pace, got a touchdown, boom. So I think they're saving a lot they're not trying to like burn themselves out and peak too soon. But again, you're playing with fire because again, you're every team Super Bowl, so it's a tricky bag they're going with.
Yeah, well, they're 10-1, so they're doing pretty well.
Could be worse.
Other teams would trade spots with them in a heartbeat. We talked about the Black Friday game. Briefly, we can kind of preview the Thanksgiving Day games. Obviously, you got the Lions hosting the Bears. That's interesting because the division game, the Lions are actually one of the best teams in the NFL. We've already talked about the Cowboys and Giants a little bit, but I wanted to mention because Drew's in the chat. So just like how Frank was at the Chiefs game yesterday, Drew was at the Niners Packers game at Lambeau yesterday. And that Thursday night game now Dolphins, with the way the Dolphins and Tua are playing, that Sunday night game at Lambeau against the Packers is easily the most appetizing game on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, like very easily. Even
Yeah.
though if the trend holds, I think we know how this is going to go. The Dolphins and cold weather.
Oh, well, there, yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, it's 85 degrees today in Houston. Maybe that warm weather will go. No.
Drew will tell you what that weather looked like from on the television screen on my end.
Yeah,
that is a game.
Yeah,
that's definitely the game to look forward to. There's another one. Who else is playing?
No, I mean the NFL. There's three on Thanksgiving. There's a Black Friday game on Friday. But I mean the Lions Bears that should be entertaining just because of the division. And the Lions are playing so well.
Yeah, Bears Lions. I think I want to see that. That's probably the second game that I want to see. How does Caleb Williams do against their defense?
Yeah.
I think that Bears Lions game actually be closer.
Yeah.
A lot of people think, and I think the Bears will trick it off in some way at the end. But
yeah, let's talk about the Bears briefly. They lost their fifth straight yesterday. They lost to the Vikings in overtime. The Vikings blew a late lead, almost kind of as crazy as the Cowboys and Commanders game. Just not as high profile. But the Vikings got the win in overtime. The Bears have lost 5 in a row. They're now 4-7. I mean, they're not going to be in the playoffs, but I mean, what are you seeing from the Bears? Are they just kind of shooting themselves in the foot, or are the Vikings really this good? What do you think?
I think the Vikings are good. The Vikings are good. I think the Vikings can and probably should win one playoff game. Okay. I think that's their ceiling. I think the Bears can still make a push towards the playoffs, but a lot of things have to go well. Again, the offense and defense not playing well at the same time. We started the year off with the defense carrying the offense, and then had like a 3-game stretch where the offense kind of picked it up, and then both of them went to shit a few games.
Yeah.
Caleb Williams looked special yesterday. Yeah. He made some special throws until overtime. And I guess the next phase is when he has it rolling, when he's feeling confident, to also remember like time, score, situation. He took one of the worst sacks of the season in that overtime on second down. Just not knowing when to bail on the play, take a short win, get to third down. You still, if need be, you're working with two downs, but took a horrific sack on 2nd and 9. Yeah. That really, and then I think they got a holding penalty on the next play. Like it just completely killed. That was it, because they lost the field position game. And then Minnesota just drove it down, for the game-winning field goal all the way down to the Bears, I want to say 10, 15-yard line. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, they shot themselves in the foot, but they also did a lot of things that I think they can take from that and apply going forward and say, hey, we can win games as long as the defense is playing well, and we can win games putting the ball in Caleb Williams' hands and letting him just make plays. Like, you got to – with somebody of his talent level, you can't coach him like he's, with all due respect, Brock Purdy, right? With Brock Purdy, you start from the base of don't make a mistake, right. Simple throw, keep it moving, and with Caleb Williams, like he can do more than that, right? And you're just going to have to live with some of those rookie mistakes because they look like a offense to be reckoned with for the most part against a really, really, really good Vikings defense. He made some spectacular throws consistently from the first quarter all the way to the fourth. Like was clutch as hell on those last few drives that they absolutely needed. Clutch in the red zone. You're just gonna have to put the ball in his hands and let him make shit work, man. And you're gonna, again, it may be a 2-interception game with 2 touchdowns or 3 touchdowns or 4 touchdowns, but I'm willing to live with that in year 1, maybe even year 2, until you're able to solidify the rest of what that team is going to look like. Mm-hmm. But yeah, they are a semi-veteran team with a young quarterback with a out of his depth head coach. Like they are, these games are going about what you expect. After the first, I'll say half of the season, okay, this is not an elite defense. This is a defense who can be elite on any given day. you kind of have to lower that expectation. Like, hey, let's put the ball in number 18's hands and let him make those plays and kind of teach him at the right points when to bring it down, when to understand like the situation. Hey, throw the ball away on 2nd and 9. Get out of the pocket. If you don't have it, try to pick up a few yards. If not, throw that shit away and keep it moving. So that's the balance they're going to have to play. But the thing that makes me nervous is they don't have the right head coach for it. So
yeah,
we'll see. But one thing I do want to continue to see is that more freedom for him to be the quarterback that he is and not the quarterback that is probably best suited for a Super Bowl run that's not going to happen this year.
Yeah. No, I mean, they're 4-7. They lost 5 in a row, but I do think the Bears, for a 4-17, they're pretty entertaining to watch. Like I usually seek out the Bears, when I'm kind of on Sunday looking around for games and stuff. So, like I said, they're last place. You got the Packers, who are now 8-3 in third. You've got the Vikings 9-2 in second place. Let's talk about the first place Lions. They won their 9th straight to go to 10-1. They beat the Indianapolis Colts on the road 24-6. Really, they were just kind of their running back combo of Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery is just kind of killing these teams. And this is a good team. This is a very good team.
When you have like 3rd and 8, even like a 3rd and 13,
yeah,
and you run the ball, and I expect you to pick up the first down. That's a really good running team. Like that's a team that understands who they are, what they do well, and again, this is what I'm talking about with the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs have certain plays, packages, things they know. These things can work for us 90% of the time, right? We could bludgeon teams with this every game, but I think they try to diversify the ways that they attack, to better prepare for different situations, different teams, different matchups in the playoffs. Detroit this is what we do, and we're going to do this over and over and over and over until you stop it. And even if you stop it, we'll continue to do it because we don't think you can continue to stop it. And that's what they did in Indianapolis. They just ran through them. This is the first game in however long that Jared Goff didn't have a touchdown pass, and it's not because he wasn't on point. It's because they get the ball to a certain point and they would just run it down Indianapolis's throats, and there was literally nothing they could do about it. So yeah, man, Detroit is dangerous. They're still my pick to make it out of the NFC. But man, a Lions-Eagles matchup with both of those running games is interesting to see. Which quarterback can maximize points off of that running game the most out of Jalen Hurts and Jared Goff. But right now, Detroit, they look like the cream of the crop.
Yeah, they're clicking on all cylinders right now. So they beat the Colts, who are second place in the AFC South. Let's talk about the first place AFC South team, the pride of Houston, Texas, our Texans. They're a struggling squad, and yesterday's loss might have been their worst of the year. I still think the Jets lost at the end of the year. The Jets loss may be worse than this one today, or this one from Sunday, but the Texans got by the Titans 32-27 here at home. Tough day for CJ Stroud, 2 picks. He also had a Dan Orlovsky kind of safety at the end of the game, ran out of the back of the end zone. Joe Mixon had a surprising off day on the ground, only 20-something yards. And Kaimi Fairbairn missed a chip shot 28-yard field goal late in the game. Was this just kind of like a perfect storm of suck for the Texans, or is this team's been trending the wrong way for about a month or so?
To me, it's the latter because of why they've been trending the wrong way over the last month. That interior line is, I struggle to find the correct, appropriate adjective. It's porous, self-defeating. I don't know. But it's a thorn, and it's killing the run game. If you look at the majority of Joe Mixon's touchdowns, they're when he bounces out to the outside. After probably getting hit once or twice in the backfield. CJ, all the pressure is coming from the inside. They're killing them. And they still have the Steelers and the Chiefs on their schedule. Like 2 teams with strong interior D linemen. And in the Steelers case, if not the best, one of the two best DNs in football, and TJ Watt. So it was a perfect storm of like all the things that they don't do well. Like CJ Stroud is not normally a turnover prone guy, but I think my theory, and a lot of other people's theory, is that he's so flummoxed by like the lack of protection, especially in the inside, that it's causing him to kind of move to something that's not a real weakness, but it's definitely not a strong suit, which is throwing on the move. That's not where he's best at. CJ is an in the pocket, precision guy who can get out the pocket and make stuff happen. But again, he would prefer to stay there. But he has no confidence in his protection on the inside. So he's skittish. You can see it. He's making decisions that he doesn't normally make. He's off on throws he's never off on. And this is also like how it goes as an NFL quarterback for the most part. I think people see like some of our, NFL aliens, like really Patrick Mahomes is like one of the biggest examples of like somebody who comes in, killing it, and then continue to go up. And that's not how it always is. Like Peyton Manning threw however many picks, they were 3-13 his second year starting. Right. So like quarterback progression is not linear. And we're seeing that with CJ. Like when something really important, when an important part falls off, it can throw off the entire offense. And right now that line is throwing off everything. I've seen a lot of people blame like, OC. I haven't been like super impressed with a lot of the play calls, but they have to fix the line before they address anything else. Like they have to make sure, hey, at the very least, CJ can look down the field and not worry about pressure coming straight to his face. Because they are on his ass in a way they just weren't last year.
Yeah. No, the line's the big hole in the team. It was good to have Nico Collins back. He had a pretty good game. I mean, he's certainly one of the best receivers in the league. I think it's just you got to give CJ enough time to get him the ball because he's going to be downfield, and he is an absolute weapon. Texans are still going to win this division, I believe, and I think they're going to host a playoff game, and that's going to be their lone playoff game this year because I don't see. If the Chargers come to town or if it's who else could it be? The Ravens, like they're not beating those teams. I don't believe. Maybe they could beat the Broncos, but the Broncos are looking better every week and Bo Nix is playing well. So I don't know the Texans beat them.
I do not think they could beat the Broncos.
Okay.
It would take a Bo Nix regression to like Will Levis,
well, not yesterday. Not West. Yeah, yesterday Will Levis was pretty good. So
it would take that type of regression, from Bo Nix, which is possible, but I don't know how the Texans score on the Broncos, consistently.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's gonna be that's a topic for another day. Finally, to wrap up the NFL week. Let's start with the first game of the week, which was a surprising result. We had the Browns upsetting the Steelers on Thursday Night Football in the snow. Very cool looking game, like to watch in the third and fourth quarter. What's your take on Jameis leading the Browns to the win over Pittsburgh?
I look at Jameis as they used to say about the Targaryens, man. You flip a coin, you might get madness, you might get greatness. I will say, like, Jameis does seem like a guy that you want to play for. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. He galvanizes a group. Guys look like they love him as a person, love playing with him. He is capable of looking like a top 15 quarterback. Also looking like a bottom 10 quarterback on a given play. But, man, he led him. I have nothing but respect for battling through those conditions on both sides. I thought Russell Wilson played well enough for them to win at the very least. It came down to who was going to have the ball last and who was going to have to go against those elements. And Browns were able to take advantage of, Steelers' mistake, short field, able to get the score. Jameis like sacrificing his body and making a absolute dime of a 2-point conversion throw. Like he has the arm talent of a guy who was a Heisman winner, number 1 overall draft pick, highly rated baseball player. Like he has the arm talent to like really make some special throws. His decision making like goes back to rookie mode, like every once in a while, and that's truly the thing that like holds him back from like being an everyday starter. But it was a visually stunning game. I always chafe at the notion that that's football weather. I'm like, if that was football weather, we'd see that during the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
we won't see that during the Super Bowl because that is not football weather. That is, we have no other option weather. So fun game. I thought I didn't really see the biggest flaw I saw in Pittsburgh was that, man, what are you going to do when you're not hitting these deep throws? Like, how are you going to consistently move the ball through the pass game if you don't have these one-on-ones on the outside? If we have that, Russell Wilson will hit those throws. You know, he absolutely will hit those throws. But just on a consistent basis, if anything holds them back from like making a run, it'll be the fact that they just can't sustain a really good pass game without the benefit of these one-on-ones on the outside.
Yeah, no, you're right. They don't have a lot of offense in between. It's either run the ball or throw it deep from Russ. So we'll see if they can figure out something they can get over in the middle of the field in between game. With their loss, they kind of opened the door. I mean, not that they were running away with the division, but now the Ravens are only a game back. Ravens again play tonight. 7-4 Ravens play against the 7-3 Chargers. Who's your pick for that game?
I'm taking the Chargers.
Okay.
I'm taking the Chargers. I think their defense is trending up. I think the Ravens defense is kind of somewhat trending up, but slower. I trust the Chargers defense more. I trust the Ravens offense more, obviously, than the Chargers. But Justin Herbert he's playing lights out. He's been playing over the last 3-4 weeks. He's playing lights out. The thing that would give me pause is that the Chargers don't really have a home field advantage. Like, there's no such thing for them.
Right.
So for Baltimore, it's going to feel more or less like a home game. If the Chargers can get the Baltimore into as many passing situations, second and long, third and long, and like really stay disciplined and keep Lamar in the pocket, I think they have a really good shot of winning that game. Like, keeping Baltimore's points down, and let's see if Justin Herbert can be special. I want to see a really tight game.
Yeah.
See both Lamar and Justin Herbert have to like drive down the field in tight situations. I just see what they made of. Like, I want to see if Justin Herbert is ready to take that next step. I love what Harbaugh did at the beginning of the season. We talk about like, hey, not every game is a CJ Stroud game. That's how the Chargers came into this season. They said, hey, every game's not going to be a Justin Herbert game. We're not going to put everything solely on his shoulders and say, hey, go carry us offensively. They let the run game develop, and now they've been like getting more explosive in the pass game with Herbert. So I'm taking the Chargers by 3. Very close game. It wouldn't surprise me if Baltimore won by 3 or 10 if they commit to like getting Derrick Henry the ball. But if Baltimore is in a lot of passing situations and Lamar has to throw it 35 plus times, I think the Chargers have the advantage.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a close game. I think it has to be for the Chargers to win. For the Ravens, I think, you wonder, Saquon Barkley getting all the headlines. Will Derrick Henry want to have a big game to kind of reclaim the running back throne? I still think he has a share of it. Obviously, it's interesting. We have back-to-back primetime games in LA at the same stadium. That doesn't happen too often. Usually they probably don't play at home the same week. So that's an interesting angle. And also, Tristan, if your prediction holds up, it would be Jim Harbaugh's first win over his brother, because John Harbaugh has gotten the better of him in the first 2 Harbaugh Bowls. One was a regular season game between the Ravens and the Niners. The other, of course, was the Ravens and Niners Super Bowl in New Orleans when the power went out. I think we all remember that game pretty well.
Beyonce Bowl.
There we go. Yeah, that was a really crazy sports game. Just the fact that the power went out, like in the Super Bowl, like that
never happens.
That never happens. No, it's like, that's so crazy.
I'm rooting for the Ravens because the Chargers are on our ass, and it's the
that's right. Yeah,
they're
not far behind. There you
go.
Far
behind, so
no. But. Do you have anything else for the NFL you want to touch on before we move on to the college?
We touched on the Jets. I was going to talk a little bit about Aaron Rodgers and why nobody should touch him, but we kind of tackled that. So let's talk about some college.
We will do that. Okay, so let's go to college. Okay, so Indiana was undefeated before the Ohio State game. I think we all expected them to lose. They got rolled by Ohio State. So my question to you is, are they going to fall out of the top 12 playoff rankings?
I don't think they should.
Okay.
You lost on the road against Ohio State.
Yeah.
You just kind of have to take that one on the chin. I think they moved to like the back half, obviously, of the top 12, but they have some really good wins this so far before Ohio State. Just the eye test says they're a team that can like sustain against most teams in the nation. I don't think there's a dominant team in the nation by any means. They still look like a top 12 team to me.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just interested to see because they're not a brand name. You know, that's the problem. You have a lot of brand names that have 3 losses. You have a few of them. One of them is Alabama, which this was probably the biggest surprise of the weekend for me. Oklahoma, which is not a good team, especially not a good offensive team, ran all over and dominated Alabama in the second half, 24-3 in Norman. What did you think about that one? Actually, I watched the second half. I was very surprised by what was happening.
Jalen Milroe might want to learn like three-step technique, 3-point techniques or whatever. He's not a quarterback. At least he's not a quarterback who's going to beat, good teams. Not that Oklahoma's a good team, but like he can look like a really bad quarterback even against bad ones. I watched the game and Alabama just looked so undisciplined. It's crazy to see them not dominating in areas where they've traditionally always dominated. Up front, on both sides of the ball, secondary, dominant run game, and they just don't have any of those things. So I say all that to say is Kalen DeBoer. This is not a good day for you, man. I haven't listened to Paul Feinbaum. Normally he has like a set guy, a legend they call him, I think, who calls in and goes on these 10-minute rants. But man, if I were him, I would really look into going undefeated the rest of this year because Alabama will get rid of you after year one. Like your shiny record, all these other places coming in, like it won't. This is Alabama. Alabama does not have much logic as far as like how many wins they should have in a good season. Is national championship contention or bust for them? So yeah, man, if I were him, I would really, really look into. I'll do some research on going undefeated the rest of the way.
Yeah,
pulling off, one more big win. If they lose to Auburn, all bets are off, buddy. That you're done in that town.
I think that's a good point. Speaking of Auburn, they probably played the game of Saturday, the crazy 4 overtime game with Texas A&M. They got the win 43-41. A&M, that's their 3rd loss. They're not totally out of it though. We'll talk about their next game to wrap up. But what'd you think about that game and A&M's chances now they still have a shot to play in the SEC title game. They still have a playoff chance. I mean, but obviously they've got to win against Texas.
I mean, not surprising. I mean, watching them, I thought they were better. I thought the quarterback play was inconsistent at best, but getting better. Like they got a dynamic kid back there who can make some plays. You can't read the field for shit. But again, like this is the SEC, and like some of the in the Big 12, and I mean they've been in the SEC for a few years now. But like, if you don't have a quarterback who you can consistently depend on, then you're susceptible to Auburn, who has a losing record, coming in and looking like Georgia against you. But I never thought that A&M was a top 15 team. They just eye test. It didn't look like it. It looked like they beat up on some teams they should have beat up on. And they beat Notre Dame, if I'm not mistaken.
No, they lost Notre Dame. They beat LSU. They beat LSU. That's probably their big
LSU.
win.
That's the one. That's the good win. Yeah, the Notre Dame game was a bludgeoning. And again, Notre Dame is a team that's slightly above their level.
Right.
They just didn't have the athletes and the horses to really go against. So I just don't see it for A&M. I think they're about a year away. I know they got some good recruits coming in, good class coming in. So we've said that in the past as well. So like,
Yeah.
do they have the coaching to like really maximize it? So I haven't seen it yet with this team. They're better. I give them credit for being better.
Yeah.
I give them credit for being a competitive SEC team who could, like you said, who's not out of it as far as making it to a championship game.
Right.
I just don't see it happening this year.
Yeah. Well, this week, Saturday's the big game, the game that we haven't seen in 14 years. It'll be the first game between Texas and A&M since University of Texas since Texas versus Texas A&M. Last time was November 24, 2011, which Justin Tucker kicked the game-winning field goal in College Station to win the game. It's a rivalry that, in the state, it's obviously a big rivalry. When you look at the numbers, though, not really much of a. I mean, Texas leads the series 76, 37, and 5. So, I mean, it's a rivalry, but it's a pretty one-sided rivalry. The one thing is, I don't know that. I don't feel super confident in Texas. I mean, they should win. I think they will win, but would I be surprised if they lost to A&M? I would not be surprised. What are your thoughts on that game?
No, I wouldn't be surprised. Quinn Ewers, bad ankle.
Yeah.
Again, there's been times where their offense just gets stagnated, especially at times where Quinn is back there and it looks like he's afraid to move. If A&M can put some pressure on Quinn, I see it being a close game coming down to the final few possessions. Texas should win. At the very least, they throw Arch in there. They have the better defense. They're better up front. Definitely better secondary. Like this, better coaching. There's no reason that Texas should not win, which means this is the game that they probably might drop. But I also say about the rivalry with A&M and Texas, at least 2011 and before, the numbers didn't really matter. These are fan bases that hate each other. Like these teams get up for each other. Have some really, really, really good games. If the majority of them went Texas' way, I expect Saturday. I expect the environment there to be electric, like one of the best we've seen all season. And for me, just as a Texan who grew up watching this game after every Thanksgiving, I vividly remember the Justin Tucker kick in 2011.
Oh, yeah.
I remember where I was when it happened.
Yeah.
I'm absolutely looking forward to it. It should be a great one.
Yeah, I remember moments with Vince and what was it, Reggie McNeil. Then you had Gerard Johnson, and then Colt McCoy getting injured in one of those games. And I mean, we've had a lot of back and forth over the years with those two teams. So it's great to see him back.
I thought Reggie McNeil was going to be something in the NFL. That's what we all have those misses. It was like, man, I love that dude in college. It wasn't meant to be. But
yeah,
I think they moved him to slot receiver or some shit.
I mean, even Ryan Tannehill, he was a receiver for half of his career in college at A&M before becoming a quarterback, then an NFL quarterback. So, it's a fun game. It's kind of strange to be on a Saturday, not on Friday. It used to always be on Friday, but for some reason, I guess they moved all of them to even Michigan, Ohio State's going to be on Saturday instead of.
Blame the NFL.
Yeah, probably so. That's probably what it is. Yeah, I'm not sure about Auburn, Alabama, but I bet that's probably also on Saturday as well. So
NFL is on everybody's corners.
It's just
taking over for everybody.
They got Amazon. They're taking over Black Friday. It's over. They're just
Christmas
done. Well, Christmas. Yeah, you got Netflix taking over with the two games, which we will definitely be talking about the next few weeks. Finally, from college, another big game, another surprising result in my mind. Was Colorado was on the rise, and they lost to Kansas. Any chance they could get into the?
I think their chances were already slim, even if they ran the table.
Yeah,
I think the chances were slim because the early losses, non-conference schedule wasn't the strongest. So I think that loss all but kind of knocked them out. But we'll see, man. I see other teams kind of falling as well before the year's up. So maybe they're able to sneak into 12. That's the thing with having a top 12 now. It was you can imagine more teams in that spot, with some, this happening, that happening. So I don't see it.
Yeah.
I still think they have some flaws up front. They're playing better on both sides of the ball. I don't think they're playing well enough for the committee, to say, okay, they need to be there with the wins that they do have. They don't really have a lot of great wins to really look at and say, okay, hey, we might have lost to Kansas, but we have this. So I don't see it, but I've been surprised by crazier things. So
yeah, we will see how it all shakes out with the 12 playoff teams. Anything else from college you want to touch on before we get out of here?
No, man, I think that's it.
We're good. Okay. So we hope everybody has a great holiday. Obviously, Thanksgiving is all about family and food and football, of course. And we'll be watching the games. We'll be talking about them next week. So we look forward to that. Want to thank everybody who joined us in the live chat today. We got King B. Johnson. We got Drew, our brother from the North, and Yesenia Martinez. Appreciate everyone for joining us. And hey, if you're on YouTube and you're watching this YouTube, do all the YouTube's things. Like, subscribe, comment. We appreciate all that stuff. It really helps us out. But hey, if video is not your thing, we got audio podcasts. You can check out this podcast on audio platforms like Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So please go there, rate and review, give us a 5-star review. That always helps us out. Definitely subscribe. We appreciate that. So, and also we're on social media. So check us out there. You can find us at Watchers Basement. Be sure to use the hashtag Watchers Basement. So for Tristan, I'm Justin saying thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Have a happy Thanksgiving, and we will see you next time. Have a good day. Bye-bye.